Yeah, that's a very interesting topic of discussion. I think that the EU has, on the one hand, the necessity to modernize the agreement with Chile in order to show new elements in their negotiation strategies, like environment, labor issues, and so on. But also, the EU needed to show something to their constituencies. At that time, they were negotiating the agreement with Mexico and Mercosur. None of them were like getting a lot of progress. Now the Mercosur is okay, but at that time it was not sure. So the agreement with Chile was very important for that issue in particular. But also because the EU needed to secure the process and the access to lithium and other critical minerals in which Chile is very intense in producing, like copper. So one of the main elements of the agreement was the chapter on critical minerals, that from Chile's perspective, it has a lot of impact on our policy space, particularly in the issues of export pricing, that was one of the most important elements of discussion. Chile wanted to reduce the impact of that element, and the EU, of course, wanted to put more emphasis on that topic. So what we did was to reduce the capacity or to minimize the impact of that article in Chile's policy space. I think most of it we obtained what we wanted. There's always more possibility to expand our policy space, but politics is not about what you wish, but also the capacities that you have to put your agenda in. That was one of the elements. The second one was about the investment agreements. One of the key elements, one of the key problems nowadays, I think, about trade agreements is the ISDS mechanism, the investor-state dispute settlements. The EU wanted to innovate on that and has another proposal to reform the ISDS, which is the investment court. It's an alternative mechanism. And I think it's better than the bilateral investment treaties that Latin America and Chile in particular has signed with the EU since the 1990s. But it still has a lot of the old investment agreements, a lot of it. So I think it was a nice step, but it's not near what we need in order to secure the policy space for developing countries. So I think that was the second most important issue of the EU agreement with Chile. Like the first one is critical mineral chapters, the second one is the investment agreement. And the third one, I think, is that the EU needed to gain more influence on Latin America. China is gaining a lot of attention because, I don't know, the trade deal, the trade relation with China is very, very intense in Latin America. 40% of our trade in Chile is with China, 40%. So the EU needed to gain more influence somehow to Latin America, and the way that they could do it is through trade agreements, not through more investment, not through more developmental policies, but through this agreement. So I think in synthesis, it was an agreement that we were able to protect certain policy space, not all of it that we wanted. In terms of trade impact, it's going to be very, very low. We should face it. Chile has a trade agreement with the EU since 2003, where 90% of our tariff are zero. And this new modernization goes from 90 to 96, I think. So it's very marginal, the impact in terms of trade flows.